Hello everybody and good morning. This is Barbara Ann and welcome to my channel Straight Out of Context. I haven't been doing videos for the last week. I had a whole bunch of sinus stuff going on, which then turned into a little bit of a respiratory thing, so I haven't been feeling the greatest. But I'm trying to force myself to feel better, stay hydrated, all of that. My state, Michigan, for February, we've had really erratic, crazy weather. Like it's dipped down to 10 degrees and then it's been 55, and then we'll dip down to 8 degrees and then it'll be 45. So just a lot of sinus and cold. And of course we have flu, COVID, all of that stuff is always going around for months at this time of year. So please forgive me for that. I just wanted to look at this real quick because there is a lawsuit going on about Prince Harry and his immigration records.
So tomorrow's front pages are on the way very shortly. But first, this is a court case being brought against the Department of Homeland Security to release Prince Harry's US immigration records, and it's just finished in Washington, D.C. Conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, has sued the Department of Homeland Security over their decision not to share Harry's visa records, particularly those relating to his drug use. Now, Harry admitted in his memoir, Spare, last year, that he had previously taken cocaine, marijuana and psychedelic mushrooms. The Heritage Foundation have therefore questioned why the prince was ever allowed to live in the US in the first place and whether he lied on his visa application in 2020. They have ultimately called for these documents to be made public. Well, joining me now is the man who has just been in court for this lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security. It's Nile Gardiner. Nile, thank you very much. So what's happened then?
I want to know.
Thanks very much for having me on the show tonight. And as you mentioned, I just actually came back to my office from the federal courtroom here in Washington, D.C. And I have to say the hearing actually was very, very positive from our point of view. We have asked for the release of Prince Harry's immigration records. We want to establish whether or not Harry lied with regard to his drug use. We want to see whether he received any kind of preferential treatment from U.S. authorities. And so the federal judge who heard evidence from both sides, arguments from both sides, is treating this case very, very seriously. And he made it clear at the end of the hearing that he may request very soon, in his own words, to see Harry's immigration records in camera. In other words, the judge himself would be able to review these records and he would be able to see exactly what Prince Harry put down on his application. This is a very, very big step, if indeed the judge goes ahead with that. And I think there's a very strong chance that he will. And so this would be a very big development in terms of getting closer to the release of Harry's record. So a very positive outcome from our point of view.
Well, just talk me through that then now. So as it stands then, the judge himself has not been able to view whether or not Prince Harry lied on his visa application to America, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And it sounds like he now wants to.
Yeah, so the Department of Homeland Security has refused to release any information whatsoever with regard to the details of Harry's immigration record. So the judge himself has not had a chance to review these records, and he made it categorically clear at the end of the hearing that very soon he will make a decision about whether he himself should have the opportunity to review those records in camera is the legal term. And if indeed the judge is able to review these records, then I think that is a very, very significant development. The judge
it will be significant.
Yeah.
Now, as I understand it, the lawyers representing Harry, I've got in my notes here that they also have represented the Biden presidency, apparently. Is that right? And
ooh, fancy lawyers.
They're saying that the book Spare is not sufficient evidence that Harry ever took drugs, and that it simply could have been used to sell books. Is that their argument?
Yeah. So I sat in the front of the courtroom. I heard the Biden administration's lawyers make their arguments. After all, we have sued the Biden administration for the release of these
Apologies,
records.
Yes, that's my fault. Sorry.
And so the Biden administration officials representing the Department of Homeland Security, argued today that Prince Harry's own book, Spare, and his revelations about drug use were not necessarily a legal admission by Harry that he had used drugs. And I thought this was a ludicrous argument. Harry himself wrote the book, is in his name. He has admitted to widespread drug use. This is clear-cut evidence that would be accepted in any court. To argue that this is not admissible and that this is not evidence of Harry's drug taking, I think is completely
I think we
ridiculous.
can learn a bit from that now, though, can't we? Can't we learn a bit from that? Because why would you make the case, as in, why would they make the case, that Harry's drug taking in Spare is not definitive proof that he took drugs previously? Why would you make that case unless he had said on his visa application that he hadn't taken drugs, right? Because he wouldn't have to.
That's a very good case, and so this is why we're asking the Biden administration to release those records so the American people can see exactly what's in them and whether or not Harry lied. And lying on an immigration application, of course, is a criminal offense. It's a very serious matter here, and I think that it's extraordinary the lengths to which the Biden presidency is going to protect these records from public release. Why are they doing that? And this is, in my view, completely unacceptable. And there's a real shroud of secrecy surrounding Harry's application. Why is that? We want to know exactly what's in those records. Harry is a huge public figure who's openly talked about his drug use. So this is not a matter of privacy for Prince Harry.
Well, quite. Right, so then just to summarise all of this, then, we could be getting a result on this when and playing that forward a bit, what could this result in? Harry being deported?
Yeah, so firstly, if the judge requests to see the records himself, that could be actually within the next few days or so.
So, yeah, as you just seen, they actually want to look at Prince Harry's visa application, his records. And if he answered no to the question, have you ever used drugs or alcohol, as in tried them, or abused them, as in you went on to use and abuse drugs and alcohol for a long period of time. But when they ask you the question, have you ever used drugs, and you have, you cannot lie and say no, you haven't, to try to come into the country. And that privileged treatment, I can understand why American citizens are like, but why would he receive treatment? Look at how many millions of refugees and immigrants every single year need someplace to call home, and there's no place where they could just get that kind of treatment, right? So why is he special? Just because he's the son of King Charles III? I'm sorry, but to me that doesn't make you special. We're an independent country. We separated from Britain. We had an entire war over it. Millions of people died, lost their fathers, their spouses, their sons. You don't get that special treatment here in the United States. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, because if he did lie, then Prince Harry is a liar. But is that any different than anything that anybody has been saying? Because he's been proven a liar time and time and time again. So now he's saying that his memoir, Spare, his biography in which he wrote that he exaggerated the drug use and the alcoholism to sell more copies. Does that mean that everybody can go get a refund now? Because that would be a fiction then, not a true biography. So I think those millions of dollars that you made, you need to go refund that back to all the people who bought a copy of that book. That would be fair. The publishing house Does he even understand the ramifications of that? The blowback of that? He exaggerated to sell books. What else did you exaggerate about then? What else did you lie about? If you will make little white lies and omissions to make millions of dollars and to sell books, what else will you lie and omit about? This is a perfect example of privilege exposing its own privilege. You don't get to have it both ways. There's something about him him and Meghan that just remind me of King Edward and Wallis Simpson. Like they want all of the privilege because he was raised his whole life being a prince. Then when it comes time for him to actually wear the crown and do the duty to his people and to his family, to his government, to the Commonwealth, he decides to step back because they wouldn't allow him to marry Wallis Simpson. It wasn't enough to just be with her. Did he have to legally marry her? So that's a prince throwing a fit, because he could have had her. They never said you can't be with her. They just said you can't marry her because she was legally married at the time to her second husband. But for some reason, Prince Harry and Meghan, they really remind me of Edward and Wallis Simpson. But that's the thing. He abdicates, but yet he's paid the equivalent of today over $35,000 a year from his brother who stepped up and became king. And then continuously with Queen Elizabeth II, after he had passed, she continued giving him that allowance until his death and until Wallis's death. This is Harry and Meghan doing the same thing. That's like slapping everybody in the face and saying, F you, because I was born and raised this way. But the minute I don't get exactly what I want, I'm not going to compromise. And I'm not going to sacrifice. So fuck you, I'll leave. Because that's wanting to have the ultimate control. Nobody's trying to control you. Nobody cares. So that'll be interesting. Interesting to see what happens there. But is that new? Is that shocking? I mean, this is what everybody, all these YouTube creators and what everybody has been saying on their X account, Facebook, Instagram. This is all the stuff that people have been saying since him and Meghan Markle have announced their engagement. Harry, there's, lies and contradictions and just something not right there. He wants all of the privilege, all of the luxury, but none of the hard work, none of the blowback. Sorry, you don't get to have it that way. You don't get to be a public figure and use the media for your benefit when you want money and you want attention, positive attention, but then say, oh no, it's an invasion of privacy when you don't like the negative criticism and the negative media attention. You can't have it both ways. You have to take the good with the bad and the bad with the good, because that's just how it's going to be. You're not going to make everybody happy. Not everybody is always going to like you. But when you are known to be a proven liar, don't come back. That's all I got to say. And that seems to be the theme of the modern time, is you can just lie your way through anything because it's the victim narrative. I'm going to tell you something right now. Everybody has trauma. All 8 billion of us on this planet, across 7 continents and 195 nations, we all have trauma. And no, you are not going to heal from your trauma. And no, your mental disability is not curable. And no, your mental illness is not treatable. So Let's get that straight right now. Nobody cares about your trauma and your victim narrative, because if you want somebody to care about yours, you better care about all of everybody else's, because we all have it. Some are worse than others. So I'm not going to hear that. The whole mental health, I'm a victim, da da da. Take accountability, take responsibility, and get over it. Literally, get over it. That's all I got to say for today. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I will see you on the flip side.